G'day. Dairy prices jump, meat plants twiddling their thumbs, and MPI wants a chat about labels. Right, let's get stuck in. Been a bit of a mixed bag out there lately. Dairy's doing all right, meat processors are getting antsy, and the bureaucrats want to fiddle with vet medicine labels. Here's what you need to know without the fluff. Let's kick off with the dairy side, because this one's actually worth talking about. At Global Dairy Trade Event number 397, the price index climbed 6.7%. That's one of those rare times when "went up" isn't just clickbait. According to Farmers Weekly, the rise was sitting somewhere between 5 and 10% right across the board, with skim milk powder and mozzarella leading the charge at 10.6%. What this means for your average farm. Without the magic beans, GDT is a signal about world demand and how comfortable buyers are taking New Zealand export. When you get a broad lift like this, processors can hold their payout a bit steadier and not panic over every minor wobble. It's not a promise of tenors for everyone, but it's a decent tailwind. Where's the catch? Simple. One auction doesn't make a season. But here's the thing. The next event, number 398, is already locked in for the 17th of February. So we won't be waiting long to see if this holds or if it was just a flash in the pan. Practically, what you can do on farm right now. No buy this, sell that nonsense, just common sense. If you've been planning purchases on consumables or repairs that can shift around timing-wise, this sort of GDT movement is a nudge to quietly recalculate your cash flow and not make decisions in a panic. But don't get too comfortable either. The market loves to give you a pat on the back, then bugger off, especially if currency and demand start doing the hokey pokey. Now on to meat, sheep and beef. And here the story's different. It's not the price, it's that processors are waiting for stock, and the stock aren't exactly rushing in. Farmers Weekly reckons the flow of prime stock to works has dropped right off, smack in the period when meat companies are usually gearing up for the seasonal peak. The reason sounds very farmer-like. Grass is good, so plenty are holding animals longer, putting on weight, instead of offloading finished stock, then buying back expensive light ones later. What this means for farms. First up, you can genuinely finish out those extra kilos on pasture and improve your per head result. Second, when the flow to works goes quiet, processors start getting twitchy about their schedule and capacity. Sometimes that ends with booking slots and premiums doing a bit of a dance. Sweeteners here, tighter specs there. Either way, the market gets more sensitive. Today they're saying, hold 'em a bit longer. Tomorrow it's, bring 'em now because the window's shutting. What happens next, and what trigger gives clarity? 3 simple markers. First, weather and grass. If conditions stay strong, farmers will keep holding. Second, plant capacity. Processors don't like sitting idle, they'll stimulate volume. Third, the calendar. Once the proper seasonal flow of finished stock kicks off, it'll be clear whether this was a quiet week or the new normal for a month. Third story, MPI and vet stuff. Sounds boring until you're caught in a "we thought we could, but the label says otherwise" situation. MPI, New Zealand Food Safety, has opened consultation on updating the guidance for veterinary medicine labelling. Consultation opened on the 18th of December 2025, and submissions close at 5 p.m. on the 15th of February 2026. Why this matters to livestock farmers, not just to people flogging products. Labelling isn't box design. It's what determines what data has to be on the label, what wording's allowed, and what gets checked later as proper use. MPI straight up says the document sets detailed requirements for what must be on the label of a vet medicine registered under the ACVM Act. What might actually change in practice? I'm not going to invent what the new rules will say, but the fact they're updating almost always means this. Some products will get new labels and instructions, and farms will have the job of retraining staff to do it how it's written now, not how we did it 3 years back. In real life, most cock-ups aren't malice, they're habit. And that's where the regulator can be very friendly. What happens next? Eyes on 2 dates. 15th of February, end of consultation, then publication of the final guidance. When exactly, MPI hasn't promised in this announcement. If you're tied up in regular treatments, vaccinations, parasiticides and the like, this is one of those times where knowing about changes early beats finding out when it's too late to argue. Got thoughts on the proposed labelling changes? You've got until 5 p.m. on the 15th of February to have your say with MPI. Not the sexiest bit of paperwork, but better to shape the rules now than cop them later. Fourth story. A small but interesting bit from the farm. No bureaucrats or commodity markets involved. RNZ did a piece on a new gadget for vaccinating and pain relief. A holder for the vaccination gun that sterilizes the needle between jabs in a little reservoir. It's being tested by Kiwi farmers, among others, and the idea started as an attempt to solve a simple problem: make the process faster and cleaner. Why this is in livestock news? Because animal health and biosecurity isn't just big diseases and import bans. It's also the small practices. How carefully and safely you're doing mass injections. How much less chance of bringing in muck. How much less stuffing around for staff. Any bit of kit that saves hands and seconds in the yards usually pays itself back in aggro saved. This isn't a sales pitch, just fact. Farmers don't test toys for the hell of it. What happens next? If this thing makes it to proper production and sales, we'll see more data on how much it actually cuts contamination risk and how much time it saves. RNZ describes it as a project still getting the final touches, so it's not in every rural supplies shop tomorrow. What are you seeing on your place? Holding stock longer on good grass, or getting them away while the going's good? Reckon that GDT bump will stick, or is it just another head fake? Drop us a line. We're keen to hear what's actually happening in the yards, not just what the market reports reckon.